All right, I wanted to share a few scriptures showing how God's people need to be faithful no matter what circumstance or situation they find themselves in, even like the ones we see today with everything going on. Can't say much about that. But no matter what's going on in the world or around us, our focus needs to remain on Jesus. And He's the one that's going to see us through um, to our end, whatever end that may be. He had he knows the end from the beginning. He knows our hearts and he holds our life in his hands. And so nothing we can do can change that. Um, and if we're willing and obedient, he will protect us and he'll see us through it. So in all the examples within the Old and New Testament, every time God's people were put in situations where there was harm that was going to come upon them, or they had to make a decision whether to follow God or follow the mandates of men. If they followed God and held true to their faith in Him, God held them up and God brought them through it. So many examples, but I'm just going to share three. Peter walking on water, Daniel and the lion's den, and then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. Now, these were extreme situations where God's people had to make a decision whether they were going to continue to follow God and be obedient to Him or go ahead and go with the flow and do what they're told according to man. And we can apply this in our own lives with the current situation, with the JAB and succumbing to the pressures and, you know, our livelihood is being taken away from us. Oh no. Okay. Or standing firm that God is faithful and He's going to see us through. We have to decide if we really want to give our lives to God fully or hold Jesus in one hand and the things of this world, money and a home and, tangible things we can see and touch in the other. Or if we're going to give our whole heart and mind, soul, and body to Jesus. I believe that's part of the greatest test here with everything and the way the world is going. And when the final mark comes around, um, the final JAB, where without it, you're not going to be able to work or buy food, which means you're going to have to be self-sustaining, self-sufficient. So that's why, you know, men and women have been warning for years to get prepared so that you're able to be in that position where you can be self-sufficient. All right, so here in Daniel 6, I want to add a preface all these with. So when I was about 47, I've shared this before. Sorry, it's the morning, my sinuses are draining. When I was about 47, I was like, man, Jesus, I hope that if the world goes to poop, um, and things start getting rough, that because this is when he first started telling me to get prepared, about when I was 46, 47. I said, I hope it happens before I'm 50. Because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to have the strength and be able to do what I have to do for you and for myself and family if I'm too old. So the years go by. Now I'm 55, and about 2 years ago when I was like 53, I was like, well, it didn't happen before I was 50, but it started happening when I was 53, right? 54. And I was like, man, I hope I have the strength because, the older you get, your body's just not as willing. And I was like, I hope I have the strength to do what I have to do. And the Holy Spirit told me right then and there, it's not your strength, it's my strength. So our strength and power, bravery, ability, provisions, and all that come from Jesus, not from our own strength. So here in Daniel 6, it pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps to be over the whole kingdom, and over these 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, that the satraps might give account to them, so that the king would suffer no loss. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and satraps, because an excellent spirit was in him. And the king gave thought to setting him over the whole realm. So the governors and satraps sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom, but they could find no charge or fault, because he was faithful, nor was there any error or fault found in him. Then these men said, we shall not find any charge against this Daniel unless we find it against him concerning the law of his God. So the governors and satraps thronged before the king and said thus to him, King Darius, live forever. All the governors of the kingdom, the administrators and satraps, the counselors and advisers, have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days, except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing so that it cannot be changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not alter. Therefore, King Darius signed the written decree. So now it was against the law to give homage or worship to anybody but the king, which they knew Daniel would be praising his Lord. So they were going to be able to catch him in this one. Now, when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home, and in his upper room, with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since early days. So even though the laws of the land were, you have to do it this way, you have to do this, or you're going to be thrown into the lion's den, Daniel was faithful to the God, the true God, and continued to praise and worship him. When our laws here contradict what we're supposed to do for the Lord comes first. And it reminded me when I was thinking about reading these scriptures. Remember when the disciples were wondering, like, if they were supposed to, or no, Jesus was being asked, well, who do you pay taxes to? You know, do you pay taxes or you don't pay taxes? Because, it's a law that you have to pay taxes. And so do you pay those taxes? And he said, I render to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's, right? Money belongs to the world. Money and power belong to the world. But our worship and our faith and our bodies, our being, belong to God. So in this day and age, cast out that which belongs to the world. Do not hold on to the things of the world. Your job, if you are forced to do something, but cast your care and your woes upon the Lord and remain faithful, and he will see you through. His will be done in your life and on this world. His will, and not what you can see with your eyes, but the spiritual will be taken care of, which is more important. So they saw him. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. And they went before the king and spoke concerning the king's decree. Have you not signed a decree that every man who petitions any god or man within 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, this thing is true, according to the laws of the Medes and Persians, which does not alter. So they answered and said before the king, that Daniel, who is one of the captives from Judah, does not show due regard for you, O king, or for the decree that you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day to his God, right? And the king, when he heard these words, was greatly displeased with himself and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. He didn't want to cast Daniel into the den of the lions because he favored Daniel. And now he knew that this was just a trap by these men to get Daniel in trouble. But he had to follow the law that he had decreed. Then these men approached the king and said to the king, King, O king, now that it is the law of the Medes and Persians that no decree or statute which the king establishes may be changed. So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you. Then a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signets of his lord, that the purpose concerning Daniel might not be changed. Now the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting, and no musicians were brought before him. Also his sleep went from him. He couldn't sleep. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste to the den of lions. It troubled him. He was worried about, Daniel being eaten. And when he came to the den, he cried out with a lamenting voice to Daniel. The king spoke, saying to Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions? Then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you. Now the king was exceedingly glad for him and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him because he believed in his God. And the king gave the command, and they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, them, their children, and their wives, and the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones in pieces before they ever came to the bottom of the den. So God, even though he was in the den with multiple lions, God sent an angel to protect him and shut the mouths of the lions so that they would not open their mouths and tear Daniel apart. So his protection is far superior when we believe and pray for it and have faith that he is able. If we believe in God, we believe that he can do these things. They're not just fairy tales. And he can protect you no matter what's going on around you, no matter what's happening with your job, no matter what's happening in this world or in our lives. He is able to do the impossible, and he did. And as soon as the accusers were cast in there, the lions tore them apart before they ever hit the ground. So then God used this. King Darius wrote to all the people, nations, and language that dwell in the earth, peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom, men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God and steadfast forever. His kingdom is the one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth. Who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions? So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. So God is able to do far above, exceedingly more than we can hope or imagine. And he is not far away, he is near. And he hears our prayers and knows our every concern. So cast your cares before him, your cares and burdens, and he will give you rest, and he will direct you in the path that you should go. God bless. I'm going to share the other ones in a different video so it's not too long.